Last year about this time, I posted a video where I did a review, or quick overview of each of my favorite Christmas movies and TV shows and specials. Um, One of those movies, after reading a bit on it recently, I thought I'd give it a little bit closer look. So the movie in question is the 1984 horror movie Silent Night, Deadly Night. Um, for those of you who know a little bit of the history of the movie, this movie, when it first came out, was um, critics hated it, and there were a lot of protests by angry parents over the violence in the movie and everything, and the whole depiction of Santa Claus being a serial killer and everything. And as a result, the movie was pulled after a couple of weeks of its initial release, even though from everything I've heard, the movie, when it was released, was actually doing quite well. It actually came out ahead of, I guess it came out the same weekend as Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was doing really well up until it got pulled from theaters. But what we're going to look at is, a little bit more in depth of the whole movie, as well as, was it really as bad as what critics and parents were saying? Does it really deserve all the negativity and the bad publicity that it got when it first came out? So the movie opens up in Christmas Eve 1971. 5-year-old Billy is on his way with his parents and infant brother Ricky to see his grandfather in a mental hospital in Utah. Billy's looking forward to seeing Santa, or getting visited by Santa Claus that night. Of course, it's Christmas Eve. What 5-year-old wouldn't want to be visited by Santa Claus? So, anyways, everything's going well, and Mom's assuring him that no, you can't stay up. That it's naughty to stay up past your bedtime, and Santa Claus is going to bring him a huge surprise that night. So while they're at the hospital, his grandfather is apparently in a catatonic state, and his parents, with his infant brother, go to talk to the doctor in the doctor's office, leaving him alone with his grandfather. Well, while he's left alone with his grandfather basically wakes up and starts telling him that Santa Claus brings presents only to the good kids, and to the bad kids, the naughty ones, he punishes the bad kids, and that if Billy's been bad this year, then he better watch out and run if he sees Santa Claus that night. Meanwhile, unknown to the family at a nearby gas station, a man in a Santa Claus outfit has just robbed the clerk, and in the process of robbing the clerk, ends up killing him in a shootout. And the clerk gets killed. Santa Claus grabs the money and takes off. Meanwhile, Billy reveals to his parents that Grandpa's told him about Santa Claus. His parents just tell him that Grandpa's crazy and not to worry about it. And his parents think that's the end of that, up until they come upon a broken down car, and turns out to be the man from the gas station that killed the clerk. And Billy sees him, starts to freak out. His parents just think, oh, it's no big deal. Someone's got a car problem, and they pull over and stop and ask Santa if he needs a ride or anything. And Santa Claus, of course, tells him no, I'm just having a bit of lousy luck. And Santa Claus pulls a gun. When the dad peels out and backs the car away from trying to get it away, Santa Claus, the guy in the Santa Claus outfit, shoots the dad. Car goes into the ditch. Billy takes off, and then the man assaults his mom and when his mom fights back, he knocks her unconscious, slits her throat, and kills her. So 3 years later, in in December 1974, Billy and his brother Ricky have been placed in an orphanage, apparently since what happened 3 years earlier. Apparently there's no other relatives other than the grandfather, and so they're placed into the orphanage. Billy begins having some problems. He's doing images and drawings for Christmas of basically Santa Claus being a violent person and killing the reindeer and everything. And he gets told to report to the Mother Superior. Mother Superior refuses to believe that what happened to his parents has anything to do with Billy, claiming that Billy has no knowledge of what happened, and basically begins punishing him for his acting up, or what she claims to be acting up. One of the other nuns sees what's happening and tries to convince the Mother Superior that, Billy's, he's holding up all this rage inside of him from all the violence he had seen, and it needs to be basically addressed before it's too late. Mother Superior doesn't want to hear anything of it, and so later on at the orphanage, Billy sees a teenage couple making out in one of the rooms in the orphanage. Mother Superior punishes them by grabbing the boy's belt and basically whipping the two of them. She then tells Billy that what they were doing was naughty, and that he was naughty as well for leaving his room and spying on them. She then takes the belt and beats Billy on the butt, and basically punishing him even though he really didn't do anything wrong. And so anyways, Christmas comes, the everyone gets their presents, and then Santa Claus apparently visits for the kids to thank him for what they got, and Billy, instead of just sitting on Santa's lap like the other kids, when Santa tries to hold him on his lap, Billy belts Santa and knocks him flat on his back. And of course, Mother Superior was not happy with the whole thing, and Billy, of course, is now afraid of getting punished again, and basically just the whole mess of him dealing with his fear of Santa Claus, and now he's getting punished for attacking Santa Claus in what he believed to be self-defense. So flash forwarding to 1984, Billy is now 18, and the nun who basically saw in him that he was having trouble dealing with Santa Claus and the Christmas and everything, she gets him a job at a local toy store in town, and he starts working in the stock room, and while there he develops a crush on one of his female co-workers, and everything is going fine up until the Christmas season rolls around, and images of Santa Claus start to appear throughout the store. So Christmas Eve comes around, and unfortunately for the store, the usual store Santa Claus went ice skating the night before and broke his leg, so they need to find someone to fill in for Santa Claus. Billy is in the back arguing with a coworker, his basically a supervisor who's actually quite lazy in this movie, and the manager of the store comes back to ask Billy for a favor, and Billy, of course, wanting to impress the boss, tells him, anything you want, I'll do. And of course, it cuts to the next scene, and they've got Billy dressed as Santa Claus to take care of the kids on Christmas Eve. And you can kind of get an idea that Billy is pretty much freaking out seeing himself in the mirror as dressed as Santa Claus, this being or person that has basically haunted him for 10 years now, or actually 13 years now. So anyways, as the store Santa Claus, in one scene he's dealing with a little girl who doesn't want to sit on his lap. He starts, even though he's out of ear range of the parents, he starts telling the little girl quietly that if she isn't good, he's going to punish her, that he punishes the naughty kids severely. And the little girl suddenly calms down. The parents are like, oh, he's great with the kids. And everyone thinks he's being good with kids, not realizing that he's actually terrorizing them. So 7 o'clock comes around, the last customers have left, the store's closed, and everyone decides in the store, gets out the food and everything to throw a little Christmas Eve Christmas party for the store. Billy, everyone starts addressing him as Santa Claus, and he, of course, wants to impress the girl he has a crush on, as well as his manager. His manager starts pouring him drinks. Billy, of course, never having alcohol, starts drinking. And at one point he sees his girlfriend that he has a crush on getting led back into the storeroom by a supervisor. And meanwhile, the manager keeps pouring him more and more drinks, basically getting him drunk, and telling him that, keep with me, and by the end of tonight, you'll think you really are Santa Claus. Basically, the one couple that's in the store, works at the store, they've, a man and a woman that were cashiers earlier, they leave. Billy is thinking about his parents, and the manager comes over completely plastered, and Billy the manager keeps addressing him as Santa Claus, telling him, you better sober up, you got a long night ahead of you, and you know what Santa Claus does on Christmas Eve, and Billy's, of course, like, yeah, I remember what Santa Claus does. And so the manager and another woman that's in the store, they start singing Christmas carols. Both of them are drunk. Billy, seeing his girlfriend getting led back into the storeroom with his supervisor, he decides to go back and see what's going on. And he gets back into the storeroom, and he sees his coworker attacking his girlfriend. And of course, seeing him attacking her, he starts having flashbacks to that night when his mom was attacked, and then he goes on to this rage and attacks his coworker. And he grabs his coworker off of his girlfriend, grabs a string of Christmas lights, and basically lifts his supervisor off the ground by the Christmas lights around his neck, basically strangling him, although there's a lot of blood, so apparently the wires cut into the guy's throat as well. His girlfriend starts to think he's telling him he's crazy, and starts pushing him away. He tells her punishment is necessary, punishment is good, grabs a box cutter, and basically slices her stomach open. So the manager, hearing commotion in the back storeroom, he goes around to the back of the store to see what's going on, and goes in the storeroom, and he's still completely plastered, and not seeing anything, he turns to start heading towards the front of the store, and turns around, and there's Billy, and Billy kills him with the end of a claw hammer. Meanwhile, Mrs. I think it was Randall is her name, she's at the front of the store, and she's, of course, a little plastered as well. And somebody turns out the store lights except for the Christmas decorations, which she thinks it's really pretty, which it was a nice little scene there that they had. But anyways, she then goes to the back of the store, and she goes into the storeroom to see what's going on. And of course, once she gets in, she sees the manager with a claw hammer in his head, and she goes running to the front of the store to run for help. Only thing is, the manager has locked the front doors of the store, so she can't get out. So she sees a phone at one of the cash registers, and she goes to call for help. Suddenly an axe comes down on the phone line, cutting the phone line, and it's Billy. And she realizes that he's killing people in the store, so she goes running off, and there's a brief struggle where she knocks him to the ground. She grabs his axe, goes to the front of the store to smash through one of the windows. Billy shoots her in the back with a bow and arrow, killing her. He then takes the manager's keys and unlocks the front door and takes off to head out of the store and go off through the town. So meanwhile, at one of the local houses, a teenage boy and girl are in the basement pool room or billiard room, making out, and she's getting naked, and which is why, if you're watching in the background, I've removed any images of nudity or anything, so this isn't going to be cut off of YouTube or anything. Anyways, they hear her little sister coming down the stairs. They tell her that she has to stay upstairs and go back to bed, otherwise Santa won't come. So she hears the teenage girl. She hears jingle bells outside. Thinks it's the cat's collar for their cat that was let out. And she goes up to the front door. Apparently, back in '84, teenage girls answered the door topless and cut off shorts. And anyways, she answers calls the cat in. The cat comes in, and Billy shows up. He smashes through the door, attacks her. There's a struggle, and of course this is one of the more infamous scenes of the movie where he basically picks her up and impales her on the antlers of a deer head that's mounted on the wall. It's amazingly how strongly that deer head was mounted on the wall, but anyway, she gets impaled on the antlers, and Billy stands back admiring his work, and anyways, the boyfriend then comes upstairs to investigate what's going on, and he finds the front door smashed in and thinks that there's something wrong, or he thinks there's something wrong that might be actually even be a prank. He goes into the living room and finds his girlfriend still hanging by the deer antlers. Anyways, there's a struggle between him and Billy. He hits Billy over the head with a fireplace poker, and Billy goes tumbling down the basement stairs. The kid then starts calling the police. Billy then attacks him, grabs the phone cords, tries to strangle him with the phone cord, and then after a bit more of a struggle, Billy then throws the kid through a window. And of course the kid lands on the ground outside. He's covered in glass and impaled in shards of glass, and he's of course dead. So Billy then gets his axe, and as he's about to leave, he is walking past this hallway, and the little girl in the house, whose name is Cindy, if you haven't figured that out by now, it's a reference to Dr. Seuss and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, basically referring to little Cindy Lou, who is no more than 2. Anyways, she's all excited that she's getting to see Santa Claus. He starts asking her if she's been good, and she tells him yes, she's been good all year, hasn't done anything naughty. and he uh, uh, keeps questioning her to make sure she hasn't done anything naughty, and he then gives her the bloody box cutter that he had killed his girlfriend with at the store. The little girl Cindy, she's obviously confused that why Santa is giving that to her, and then of course Billy walks off out of the house, and he's being hunted by the police, and basically goes hiding in the woods. So meanwhile, the sheriff's office, they're after the bodies at the store are discovered by the nun who went to check on Billy. They are actively searching the town, looking for anybody dressed as Santa Claus to stop them, make sure they are who they are. They claim to be, and not Billy. They see a guy climbing into an upstairs window of a house. They go barging into the house, and turns out to be this little girl's father, who is trying to surprise his daughter dressed as Santa Claus, and of course, false alarm. Meanwhile, two kids on a local hillside are taking off sledding in the middle of the night. Well, it's actually late in the evening, closer to midnight probably, because clocks in the store at the time of the murders were about 10:30 at night. Anyways, they're stopped by two bullies, two older kids, who steal their sleds and chase them off. So the first of the bullies, he goes sliding down the sled, uneventful, no problem. Tells the other kid to head on down to down the hill, and it's going to be a blast and everything. The other kid goes to take off, and of course Billy jumps out and of the bushes with the axe, swings the axe, and decapitates the other bully. So and then the first guy that went down, he sees the sled coming down, and then sees the headless body coming down the hill, and then the head comes tumbling down after him. So meanwhile, at the sheriff's office, or police station, I'm not really sure if it's police or sheriff in this movie, but anyways, one of the detectives tells the nun that there's been 3 more murders in the town. The boy and girl at the house, and then the kid that was sledding. And they realize that Billy is most likely heading back to the orphanage, and they don't know who. Of course, they don't know exactly who is going to be his target is at the orphanage. Just that he's heading there. They try to call out to the orphanage to warn them, but one of the little girls is playing in the office, and she leaves the phone off the hook, preventing any incoming calls from coming in. So meanwhile, at the orphanage, the kids are out in the yard playing in the snow and everything, and they see a guy dressed as Santa Claus walking up to the playground. And the kids are all excited that Santa Claus is coming to visit and everything. And one of the deputies shows up and sees the guy dressed as Santa Claus. Of course, you don't really see him from front, you see him from behind. And the deputy gets out of his police truck and tells Santa Claus to stop. Santa Claus doesn't stop, and he opens fire on the Santa Claus, since they have orders to shoot and kill if necessary. Anyways, as it turns out, the guy that gets killed wasn't really Billy. Turns out it was one of the priests dressed as Santa Claus to come and visit the school, or the orphanage. The reason he didn't stop when the officer told him to stop was because apparently he's deaf and didn't hear anything. So the kids are all traumatized and everything that they saw somebody dressed as Santa Claus being killed in front of them. Meanwhile, Mother Superior, she's upset with the officer, telling him, I don't know how you could have mistaken Father O'Brien for the Santa Claus. As a killer, he's dressed as Santa Claus. Apparently she's oblivious to the fact that there's somebody dressed as Santa Claus that might be heading towards school, the orphanage that has already killed 7 people. So the officer at the school who did the shooting, he's waiting for everyone else to arrive in the department to arrive, and he's checking out the grounds, and next thing he knows, he's getting an axe to the chest by Billy. who and basically is killed instantly as he falls backwards down the flight of stairs. Billy then, after chopping off the head of a snowman, goes up to the main doors of the orphanage where the kids are singing Christmas carols. One of the kids sees Billy and immediately decides, hey, here's Santa Claus, and goes to open the front door. Even though the door was locked, Mother Superior sees what's happening. Of course, it's too late. The kids let Santa Claus, or the killer Santa Claus, into the school or the orphanage. And the kids are like, well, it's Santa Claus. Why can't we let Santa Claus into the orphanage? So anyways, Mother Superior calls the two kids back away from Billy. And she then starts looking at Billy, telling him, there is no Santa Claus. And Billy then looks at her and then tells her naughty. And it gets closer, and she keeps repeating over and over, there is no Santa Claus, there is no Santa Claus. Billy raises his axe, keeps telling her naughty, and in front of the kids, he's about to swing the axe down to kill Mother Superior, and there's a couple gunshots as the other nun and the detective, they arrive on the scene just in time to kill Bill, or to shoot Billy and prevent him from killing anybody else. Billy collapses in front of the kids, tells the kids, you're safe now, Santa Claus is gone. And one of the kids turns out to be, who is actually Ricky, Billy's younger brother. He sees Billy lying there dead in front of him, looks up at Mother Superior, tells her naughty, and that's the end of the movie. A lot of critics and angry parents criticized the movie as portraying, as well as the movie advertisements on TV, as portraying Santa Claus to be a serial killer. The movie, it really, if you watch the movie, one thing that they make clear is none of the people dressed as Santa Claus is really Santa Claus. So, you watch, and it's not really just a straight out slasher flick. The movie really lays out all the groundwork for what leads up to Billy's going nuts and going on his killing spree in this town. It starts out, Billy's told by his mom that it's naughty to stay up past his bedtime. He is told by his mom that Santa's going to bring a huge surprise for him that night. He goes to visit his grandfather, who tells him that Santa Claus is going to punish him, that he better run for his life if he sees Santa Claus that night. Then on the way home, as the family is driving along, Billy starts telling his parents that he's scared about Santa Claus showing up because he doesn't want to be punished by Santa Claus. His parents are telling him that Santa's just a crazy old fool, and Billy at that point is like, Mom, it's naughty to say things about old people. Santa's going to punish you. So what happens? They run into the Santa Claus, or what Billy thinks is Santa Claus. He's actually the guy from the gas station. And this guy, kills both of his parents in front of him. Billy thinks his mom's being punished. He's being punished for being naughty, and like his grandfather said, he better run for his life if he sees Santa Claus. So later at the orphanage, when Billy sees the young couple, making out in one room of the orphanage, he's told by his Mother Superior that what they were doing was naughty, what they were doing was sex, basically. And so she's basically instills in him that anything to do with sex or nudity is naughty or bad. She then also tells him that when people do things that are naughty, they're always caught, they're always punished, and punishment is absolute and necessary, and punishment is good. So then you flash forward, 10 years later to the store. Billy's got all this going on in his mind about what he thinks is the truth about Santa Claus, about how people are punished when they're bad, and it gets to the store. His manager, first of all, everyone starts addressing him as Santa Claus when he's in the Santa Claus suit. Second, he gets alcohol in him for the first time in his life. He's always passed up alcohol and everything up until this party. So the first time having alcohol in his system, he's trying to keep up with the manager, and obviously that's going to start affecting his mind. And then the manager, addressing him as Santa Claus, tells him he's got a long night ahead of him and that he'd better get started. That starts instilling in Billy that he is actually Santa Claus, and that he needs to, and then when he sees his girlfriend go with his supervisor to the back of the store and follows him and sees his girlfriend getting attacked, obviously he realizes his supervisor's bad and needs to be punished, so Billy does what he thinks is right. And the movie, it doesn't really, if you watch the theatrical version versus the unrated version, which I have on DVD, when you watch the theatrical version, they cut out a lot of the flashback stuff of Billy seeing his parents killed. And it's more of, they go into direct from him seeing his girlfriend to attack to him attacking his supervisor, which makes it look like he just snapped and goes nuts. But when you watch the uncut version, which I have on DVD, or which is actually, in my opinion, the best version of the movie that's out on DVD, there's a lot of flashbacks where he's seeing his parents killed, and it slowly goes into him thinking, hey, I'm Santa Claus, I have to punish this guy. That's where, this is one of those rare cases where, in horror movies, where you don't just, see a killer going off, you see what builds up inside the mind of the killer. And it's more of a psychological thing, because, it addresses the whole idea that, he's seeing all this violence, he's gotten bad information growing up as a kid, and no one's bothered addressing him to tell him, that's not really Santa Claus that killed your parents. That's not really what Santa Claus is. They give him bad information about sex and about punishment and everything. And Billy, he has all this misinformation in his head, combined with the fact that it keeps being addressed as Santa Claus. He's got alcohol in him, which is also affecting his thinking. And, he just literally gets pushed into believing that he is Santa Claus. It's almost like he believes that maybe Santa Claus, it's never really addressed in the movie, but maybe he's thinking that Santa Claus is this like supernatural being that possesses someone in a Santa Claus suit and forces them and makes them, go off on a killing spree, or, to attack the naughty people. And so I think that might have been where he felt that, hey, maybe he's taken over by the spirit of Santa Claus, the spirit Santa Claus that he knows, which is the violent one. And he goes on the killing spree after first he kills his supervisor because he's attacking his girlfriend. He kills his girlfriend because she tries to fight back and doesn't agree with his punishing his supervisor. So he believed, and when he kills her, he tells her that punishment is necessary and punishment is good. He kills the store manager and as well as the other lady, who were basically drunk and and he thinks, I don't know, if he basically thought at that moment that they were going to fight him, and um, believed that his punishment, or his punishing the other two, were naughty. So he's gone ahead and punishing them. Of course, they're drunk, which Billy had always been told, probably been told that alcohol is bad. So he that's probably another reason why he punishes the manager and his other coworker as well. So as far as the boy and the girl at the house that were killed off, he saw them having sex. Of course, he has been instilled by Mother Superior into thinking that sex, even though it's consensual and between two um, people, that that sex is a bad thing, and he thinks, okay, I'm Santa Claus, I have to punish this guy. Also, in the scene, he gets hit over the head with a fireplace poker. So he's probably got a head injury now, and that's going to start affecting his thinking too, depending on how bad that injury was. And it's obvious he was hurt because he had, in some of the scenes after this one, where he attacks the two teenagers, he's got some blood coming down from his forehead. So he's got a head injury that's obviously affecting his thinking. Plus, he's still probably got the alcohol in him, depending on how much he had to drink at the party. And, he's, in his mind, he is Santa Claus and he has to punish people. Then when he shows up at the hillside where the two bullies have stolen the sleds, he misses the first bully but punishes the second one. He gets to the orphanage, and he sees he probably, it's not said where he was at the time the priest dressed as Santa Claus was killed, but he probably saw what happened, and he sees the officer or deputy basically sees him as somebody trying to stop Santa Claus from punishing people. And of course, Santa Claus is supposed to punish people, so he punishes the deputy by killing the deputy. Goes inside, and of course Mother Superior, for all her meanness and everything, and abuse of Billy when he is little, he apparently decided that she was naughty, especially when she starts telling the kids there is no Santa Claus, which is when Billy tells her that she's naughty. And so there is a logic in the whole thing behind all of these killings in the movie. So where did all the controversy of the movie come from? Well, Siskel and Ebert, for one thing, they gave the movie a horrible review. The movie was released in theaters by TriStar Pictures. Gene Siskel, basically, when he was talking about the movie, he started listing the studios and companies behind the release of the movie, and telling them the movie is nothing but blood money. Shame on all of you for what you've done. You have nothing to be proud of. Roger Ebert was basically the same way. They basically slammed the whole movie. And then apparently one of the commercials in the movie, for the movie, it aired during prime time, during, I guess it was a football game or something. And these angry mothers and parents, they started protesting at theaters, and they had basically the protests got bad enough that the movie was pulled from after about 2 weeks after its release. Even though in the early 70s, if you watch the anthology movie Tales from the Crypt, there's a killer Santa Claus in that movie. In 1980, there was a movie called Christmas Evil, also known as You Better Watch Out, where a guy goes on a killing spree dressed as Santa Claus. Neither of those movies got protests by parents or anything. But yet you get to this one, and the filmmakers, when they made this movie, they thought they're going to get if anything, they're going to get complaints from the Catholics for depicting the nuns as being, the stern, domineering nuns, and basically the abuse that Billy was getting in the orphanage. So the people protesting, I mean, they were protesting that, saying stuff like the movie depicts Santa Claus. It's abusive to kids for them to see this movie. One mayor of some town even said that he was all for free speech, but Christmas and Santa Claus is sacred, that they shouldn't make movies like this. So it was like one thing, they're passing judgment on this movie without having apparently seen it. Like I said earlier, if you watch the movie, Santa Claus is not in the movie. Santa Claus, it's three people dressed as Santa Claus, but you don't actually see Santa Claus himself. And they make that clear in the movie, that the people in the movie dressed as Santa Claus are not Santa Claus. Also, the the whole thing with, the one protester saying that they were for free speech, but Christmas is sacred. If you're for free speech, you have no right to say that this movie shouldn't be made, because, it's basically saying you're for free speech, except if you disagree with me, or something like that. And there's a lot of stuff where politicians and other groups and stuff that I've seen on the news and stuff, I don't like what they have to say, but it's like, it's their freedom of speech. They're allowed to do that. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean that they don't have the right to, say what they're saying, or, make movies like this or whatever. And so, the whole controversy over the movie, I mean, I think it was ridiculous. They totally blew the whole movie before it really even got a foothold in the theaters. I remember I saw the video of VHS version of the movie. I think that was the theatrical version I saw, most likely, back in December of '92. Initially, I didn't really care for the movie. It was okay, but then, years later, I rewatched it, and it kind of grew on me as a horror movie. It's since become, one of my favorite horror movies. And, the whole thing is, that I see it is, it's obviously an R-rated movie. There's going to be violence. What parent in the world is going to take their kids to see this movie? You're not going to take your kids to see a violent serial killer movie that's rated R. And, the whole premise that, kids are going to be affected by this. Okay, one thing, there's a lot of violence on TV commercials and stuff for movies. Why not just tell the kids, that's not really Santa Claus that's in this commercial. Someone dressed as Santa Claus, the real Santa Claus isn't like that. Why not just tell the kids that? Or better yet, turn off the TV, ignore all the ads and everything. It's like, stop using the TV as a babysitter. Don't, just blindly let your kids watch TV, and, talk to them about what they see on television. It's just, don't go taking it on people just because they make something that you might not like or agree with, and, go on and on about stuff that you really don't really know anything about. So, in my opinion, I mean, the movie, it's low budget, so it's not, a huge production, or, something that's should have gotten an Oscar or anything like that. But, it's a fun little horror movie, and, despite all the protests, it's not that bad of a movie. And, if you're looking for a horror movie to watch over the holidays, if you're into horror movies like I am, this is definitely one. You get a big bowl of popcorn, get some good eggnog, good eggnog, not just plain eggnog, the good stuff. But and then pop this in the VCR or DVD player and sit back and relax. And it's about an 85-minute movie. It's a little under 90 minutes. So, but just sit back and relax and enjoy the time. So, anyways, that's my look at the movie, and a little bit more in depth than I went into last year as to my views on the movie, examining it and all the controversy and everything. So, hope you enjoyed the review. If you want to see more in-depth reviews of movies like this, let me know, and I'll be glad to do more of movies that are in my collection and examine them. Anyways, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, have a safe and happy holiday season.